Hey everybody, it's Charlie. We got a whole bunch of Avengers Phase 4 to talk about. We got more details about the Eternals movie. Kevin Feige even did an interview talking about some specific aspects of it, billing it as the secret history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, taking place at least 1,000,000 years ago, although the entire movie might not take place in 1,000,000 BC. We might actually meet some characters in present day that are Eternals that have been secretly living among us this whole time. So we gotta break it down. There's a new round of that IMAX ticket giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a Marvel-related comment on the video. I'll name a new winner at the end of this. There's so much stuff here, so we'll just do this top 10 style, starting with number 10. The movie is supposed to enter production September 2019, which is relatively soon. We didn't know when they were actually going to make this. Kevin Feige said that it was on the schedule, but he didn't say when it was on the schedule. September 2019 implies that they plan on releasing it sometime, maybe late 2020. Maybe they'll push it a little bit later than that if things take longer during the development process. But typically the really weird movies that they're trying out that they're not totally certain how big they'll do at the box office, like Doctor Strange or the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, get released towards the end of the year, like August, November timeline. So pretty safe bet that they're going to release Eternals towards the end of the year, whether it be 2020 or the year after that. 9, we've already found out that the writers that were working on the project say that they're more inspired by the original Jack Kirby 1970s comic book as opposed to the more recent ones, but from what they say about the villains and the casting notice breakdowns, it sounds like they might also borrow a couple things from the more modern Eternals comics. There haven't been that many. They're really only 4 volumes, and if you actually try to hunt down those Eternals comics online, they're not on Marvel Unlimited, so already pretty hard to find, and they're not on Comixology, which are 2 of the only places to get legit digital comics. So you actually have to have the physical copies or just hunt down a scan if you actually want to read some of these stories. That's how obscure they are, but they sort of serve as an origin point for the MCU. They do say that the story will involve connections to modern-day, pre-established characters. They're talking about the Eternals and the Eternals story invoking a lot of characters that are alive or were alive in present day, because some of the big ones you'll notice on my list here have died, or we think that they've died. So starting with number 7, most notably, Thanos of Titan. Thanos descends from the Eternals even though he was born on the planet Titan. Thanos' grandfather is one of the original Eternals, so some of them left planet Earth, they eventually landed on Titan. They became the society that Thanos talks about when he had that scene explaining how they fell.
And it was beautiful. Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Genocide.
But random, dispassionate, fair to rich and poor alike. They called me a madman. And what I predicted came to pass.
Keep in mind that the Eternals are millions of years old. They're called eternal for a reason, because they're functionally immortal. So Thanos is extremely long-lived. Genetically, he carries the deviant gene, so he looks like the deviants, but he really has eternal DNA in him. So that's why he's so powerful naturally, even without the Infinity Gauntlet. Another really important scene, there's Ego the Living Planet talking about his origins. He is a Celestial. The Celestials, or at least the first host of Celestials, are the ones that created the Eternals. When he talks about not remembering how he came into being, there are actually ways that the Eternals and the Celestials can get sick, can die, can suffer from diseases. They just have to be very big cosmic diseases. Because he's billions of years old. Eternals millions of years old, Celestials billions of years old. 5, there's the Elders of the Universe. I'm hoping that they tie them to the Eternal storyline because, as the name implies, Elders of the Universe, there's this casual line that the Grand Master slips in during Thor Ragnarok where he says, "Time moves differently on Sakaar. If I were anywhere else, I would be millions of years old." So it's just a fun way of winking at that, and the fact that there are all these Jack Kirby Eternals designs all over his palace, and his guards are dressed like some of the Celestials. All really subtle things in present day that they can pay off during the Eternals movie, because you remember that Sakaar is sort of like the universe's trash dump. There are a bunch of wormholes that exit there. The devil's anus. Pretty easy way to explain how all that celestial tech can find its way getting dumped there. 4, we have Odin and his father Bor, the line of Asgardian Allfathers. There's this line during Thor Ragnarok where Thor is talking to Surtur and says, "Didn't my father kill you about 1,000,000 years ago?" So it's a fun way of winking at the fact that Odin is also super old in the MCU. They sort of get into the idea of the Odin sleep during the first Thor movie, but they don't totally explain how it works or how old he really is. They get into a little bit of MCU ancient history during that pre-credit sequence in Thor the Dark World where Odin is explaining how his father defeated the Dark Elves. So if you keep in mind that Odin is almost 1,000,000 years old, then you have to imagine that this is happening even before then, so maybe around the time that the Eternals are being created by the Celestials. 3, Kevin Feige has teased that it's sort of like the secret history of the MCU, mostly talking about the Earth-based characters and explaining the true origin for superpowered people, mutants if you want to call them that, enhanced individuals that have changed on a biological level. Marvel Comics just did a really big Avengers story bringing those characters into modern-day continuity, involving a lot of retcons to what the Celestials did and the reason why they created the Eternals. They used it as part of this larger plot between Celestials and Dark Celestials and this war they were fighting, and they also retconned the origin of the Infinity Stones in this really big way. But I would expect them to simplify that quite a bit, because even if you haven't read it, it sounds kind of complicated, so they might just omit the idea of Dark Celestials altogether. But 2, the actual casting breakdowns. We have Cersei, Icarus, Gilgamesh, Makari, Elysius, Thena, Zurus. It even lists Star Fox, who's actually Thanos' brother, so it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate him, because technically he wasn't one of the original Eternals, so we'll just wait to get some more information about how they're going to use that character. But if you wanted Star Fox, it seems like he's going to show up during this Eternals movie. The main villain is supposed to be Druig. He's a recurring Eternals villain. Regardless of which era you've read which volume, 1, 2, 3, or 4, he typically shows up as an antagonist, and it winds up being a kind of Game of Thrones situation whereby his father is one of the original leaders of the Eternals. He wants to bend the other Eternals to his will so that he can rule them all. You have the good Eternals who are led by his nephew, Icarus. So when you're thinking about main characters, really it's like Druig, main villain, Icarus, main hero. In number 1, Kevin Feige just did a recent interview where he talked about them again, referring to them in a very Guardians of the Galaxy scenario. He says, "Your reaction about not being familiar with the Eternals is perfect, because most people are like, who the hell are the Eternals? I have no idea what's going on." He went on to say, because most people weren't familiar with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and believe it or not, there were people that were not familiar with the Avengers or Iron Man. So for us, talking about Marvel collectively, it's finding great stories whether people have heard of them or not, and bringing them to the big screen in as amazing a way as we can. So he said things are going to get weird. They are definitely going to get weird with the Eternals. But think of it as being like Game of Thrones in the Marvel Universe with Greek mythology. But let me know in the comments, if Star Fox is listed on the casting descriptions and they're doing Thanos' brother, how do you think they're also going to reference Thanos during the movie if he would be either very young or not having been born yet when a lot of the events of this movie are happening? There's a whole bunch of other Marvel videos that I'm working on, but leave your requests in the comments below. I'll try to post everything as soon as possible. Congratulations, Ian Mills. You're the giveaway winner from my last big video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Click here for that Infinity War alternate ending, and click here for that brand new Spider-Man trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.